Well, the first attempt at this lasted 2 seconds, and I noticed my camera was a little tilted. It's early in the morning. I'm a little tilted myself. And so this is take two. I have got on the 18 to 55 millimeter lens, and I've done that for the simple reason that when it's on autofocus and it's trying to focus in, it's quieter. The drive is better on this one than on my expensive lens. Now there's that short explanation. Now, to today. Today, I put this recording at the feet of Milady. It's all her, on her shoulders, at her feet, her responsibility. She's the reason this is being done. Aha, you say to yourself, what did that poor woman do? Well, let me tell you, it was the most disturbing thing she has done to me in years. I was having trouble with my hands, so I won't go into the reasons why. They just give me trouble now and again. So I couldn't get my ponytail in. The stretchy thing that you swirl your hair into, well, I couldn't get my hair in and all that stuff done right. So, being brave and reasonable at the same time, I said to Milady, can you put this in for me? And she said, sure. And a couple minutes later, I'm still there, and I can feel her doing something behind me, but I have no idea what. Turns out she put my hair in a braid, and she got it up above the nape of my neck, and it was very solid and looked pretty good. Come the end of the day, I took the elastic out of it, and the braid just fell out beautifully. I thought, hey, this is great. It's off my shoulders, it's hot, it feels good, and I guess it looks cool, because Milady did it, and she's artistic. I didn't have a mirror to look through the back of my eyes with. I don't have eyes in the back of my head. It wouldn't do me any good. I got a bald spot, though. Well, the next day the same thing happened, but day three was a bad day. She put in the braid and went to town. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I try to take the braid out and I can't. It just won't undo. I try and I try and I try. Eventually I get so frustrated. Min, the lady you've heard me talk about so much before, was doing dishes. I walked over to her, I grabbed a pair of scissors, I said, cut! And she looked at me, and she doesn't speak a lot of English, but I don't speak a lot of Italian either, but we managed to communicate. And she said, all? I said, no, just this. And I held up the knotted hair, and she said, okay. And she cut it out. At which point, I didn't have to worry about undoing the braid. Well, the trouble is, you have seen in the Persian pictures of old people with beards that have got points on them. Well, now the back, my hair had points on it, and the only trouble was it looked kind of silly, my wife thought. And I thought about it for a day or two. Finally, I'd had it. And so for the first time in 10 years, give or take, I had a haircut. And now my hair is so short. I mean, you can barely put it in a ponytail on a hot day. In days gone by, we live out of the city by a fair bit. We're 14 miles from the nearest city center, and we're 4 kilometers from a local town. And I would wait until I got into the city and I'd get a military-style crew cut, really short. And if I was really going fanatical, I'd have them cut my beard the same way. And then I'd be out of the city for another 4 or 5 or 6 years, however long, and my hair and beard would grow. Well, one day I decided to let it go, just let it go type thing. And eventually it got to the point where I took my beard and I put it over my shoulder when I went to sleep at night, or I'd fall asleep and it would get caught under my arm and I'd have to tug it out. And my hair was long enough that it was, well, when it was straight and wet from a shower, it must have been 1.5 feet long, close to that anyway. It was, and sounds strange, but it would hang down and it would get caught in my armpits. Or I'd go to sleep and it would tickle my back. But I was too lazy to do anything, so it's been a while since I had a haircut. It was long and I just didn't get my hair cut. So this having my hair cut is very strange. She trimmed my beard too, so here I sit behind the camera with a fully trimmed beard and a short haircut for me. And it feels so darn strange. My hair is not hanging down in front of my eyes when I lean over. Very strange. But it's all my wife's fault that I got a haircut. I'm going to drink a little slurp of coffee here, so enjoy the view. There you go. And as you can see, that over there, straight ahead, is what started off as my wife's office and then turned into our bedroom, and is now our laundry room and storage area. We tend to reuse and recycle a lot, which is a good deal as far as I can see. Now you can't hear the ladies, and I don't know that I can get a picture of it, but I'm going to swing the camera around, bringing it over slowly so nobody gets seasick. There's our beautiful new garden, our cut down Lanzoni tree, where we're planting new stuff, our old house that we're letting go back to nature. And I bring it around, and as I bring it around, there's some Buddha bamboo, or champagne glass if you want to go classy. And right to the side of it, there, okay, right about the middle of your screen, you can see through. And what you're seeing through is our fence. It is made out of wire on the outside, steel posts, wire, and on the inside we have put what's called Sasa, S-A-S-A. And you take bamboo, cut it to 6 foot, 7 foot, 3 meter lengths, 2 meter lengths, whatever you want, and then you hammer it with a bolo and spread it out, make it flat. And that's Sasa, and that's what our fence is, and that's what the ladies are working on, because we don't want to see through our fence. We hate seeing through our fence. We do love our privacy. All right, I'm going to bring it back now. Bringing it back. I'm doing this so gently, so slowly. And I'm hoping beyond hope that my dog will not bump. All right, now that's Rusty that you're seeing pop into the screen. I'm going to leave that slightly off center. I don't have a gimbal, so I'm kind of stuck with it. You can see our path that goes through. At the end of a path, you can see a stone wall. The stone wall is a raised garden. We've got dragon fruit, beans, flowers, a few herbs, some neat stuff growing in it. And you can hear that. Yeah, that's the lady splitting the bamboo. They do it under the house because, as you can see, it's kind of a drizzly day. I'll bring this back again. Oh, that's such a pretty shot. There's our, there's something. That white line there that's now approaching and in the middle, going out from the office. Oh, is bamboo coming down. Actually, you can't see the white line. But we have a laundry line hanging out there for sunny days. And what are we at? We're at 10 minutes. I ran into, on Twitter, yes, I do that silliness too, but not often. I just tend to forget the lesson I've learned, and it was a very fanatical feminist who proclaimed loudly to the world on Twitter that if only women ran things, it would not be as violent and as nasty as it is. And I made to what I thought was a reasonable statement. I said, surely you must admit that men and women have an equal possibility and propensity for doing violent things and evil things and stupid things. And she came back and roared at me, no, that's not what the statistics show, and don't you dare bring up Margaret Thatcher and the rest of them. And I'm thinking, why can't I bring in leaders of the world that were women that led their people to war? She was simply not willing to look at anything that did not agree with her belief. Fair enough, I quit the conversation at that point. But that's my definition of a fanatic. Others would call them other names, but to me that's just a fanatic. Someone who has decided to make everything fit their worldview. You can find this everywhere. If you look at the left-wing liberal cable companies out there on America, MSNBC, CNN, what have you, all of the hosts they have the same talking points. And they use the same expressions every day to talk about whatever event is happening. They have a point of view that they're going to make things fit. Now, I'm not just picking on those guys. The ones on the right, Fox News Network comes to mind. Their talking heads are exactly the same thing. You can find videos on it. You've got host A and host B and host C, and they're all spouting the same party line. And on both networks, the hosts are color-coded. On Fox and the far right, it is white and blonde. On the left and far left, you want to have people of color. You want to have people who don't fit the right's norm of ideal person. And you can color code and what have all these outlets. And that's where you've got to be careful. If you just read, or if I just read, I don't care about, let's just leave it at me. If I just watch this show or that show, I get a very biased view of the world. Not a good deal. I have always, when given the opportunity, gathered my news from very significantly different broadcasters. Back in the day when I was a lighthouse keeper, I would listen to the BBC, I'd listen to CBC on shortwave radio, of course. I'd listen to Radio Free Europe and the American stations. I'd listen to Radio Moscow. And every time I'd get a different view of the same thing that was going on and happening. And you had to learn how to peek and look under the covers and peer into the cracks and to find what was probably close to the truth. Because no one side's going to give it to you the whole truth, because they all have their own, we want you to know this thing. I'm reminded of a cautionary lesson that I learned. I was on the motor vessel Thomas Crosby 5. It was the United Church of Canada's mission boat on the north coast of BC. And we went down to Bangor, Washington State, a U.S. Submarine base. And in that submarine facility, it was the home port of the Trident nuclear missile submarines. And we went down to tell the people, we don't really think it's a good thing to have these things floating around the ocean. It was a protest, and somebody that we came to one of the ports we stopped at to make our point yelled at us, "You left-wing commies, you never complain about Russia, only about America." And I thought about that. I thought about that a fair bit. So I got on the phone one day. I did. A long-distance phone operator in Canada. I said, "I want to talk to the Kremlin." And she said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I am a political protester. I want to make a protest to the Kremlin about their terrible things they're doing." And she said, "Just a minute." And I'm listening, and there's click, clack, click, click, clack, clack, click, click on my telephone line. And she comes back to me and says, "I'm sorry, sir. We can't get that number." I said, "Oh, so be it. Okay, thank you very much." And I hung up. And about a month later, and during that time, and now we were on a private phone line. We were not a party line. We had our own telephone line. And for the next month, every time I picked up the phone, there was a clickety-clackety stuff going on. And I didn't think too much of it. But about a month after that phone call, I got a message that the post office had a package for me. And I went down to the post office, and there was, a 4-inch, 5-inch thick pile of stuff that was tied up in a very strange way. And I looked at it and I said, "Do you tie your stuff up like this?" And the fellow looked at me and said, "No, sir, we don't do that. But I have noticed that occasionally we get mail that's been filtered through other sources, and they tie it up like that, and then we just deliver it." And I thought about that, went back to my house, and it was all material from Russia. The Kremlin had written to me. Somehow they had found out about this, and they sent me information. And I found out that their Typhoon-class nuclear missile submarine was in answer to the American Trident system. And from the Russian perspective, all they had ever done since World War II was play catch-up with technology and what have you, and weapons of war. And I thought about that, and I said, "Yeah, okay, I can see that. Certainly America had the nuclear bomb first. They had the hydrogen bomb for it first. Russia paid to that game when they let off the world's largest hydrogen bomb. I've seen video of that. That's a scary bomb, let me tell you. Whew. Luckily, it was only about half the size that they had planned for, but that one was, if you ever get a chance, I think it's called the Tsarist bomb, but you can find it in World's Biggest Nuclear Explosion on YouTube. And it is, if you find the right one, it is Russian historical film of the event. It's scary. But back to the point. I tried to get a news source that I wasn't really supposed to access, and the Canadian intelligence service started intercepting my phone calls and my mail. So much for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, no, no, those are the guys below the 49th. But the true north, strong and free, unless you go against party policy, and then you get in trouble. Same as anywhere. Which is why I have a great deal of compassion for your average Russian citizen right now, because they're not getting the whole story. And I'm not saying that because Putin is trying to lie to them intentionally or anything else. I'm just saying that when the state controls the news sources totally, then the state puts out the message they want put out. And in this time in Russia, they want to put out a message that says this military excursion into the Ukraine is legitimate, right, proper, noble. We are fighting the neo-Nazis and liberating our brothers and sisters. That's their message, and it's the one they're putting out, and that's the one that your average Russian citizen gets to hear, because they don't have many news sources they can turn to. So be it. In America, you've only got the left and the right. There are no independent sources. Where I live in the Philippines, we have one news outlet that is named Rappler, R-A-P-P-L-E-R. The owner, head editor, what have you. Those are my dogs in the background. She just won a Nobel Peace Prize for her courage in literature and what have you. My screen just went dark. I have no idea why, but it did. So when they write it, I go look at other sources outside, but I do trust them. But ladies and gentlemen, you gotta really stay away from the fanatics, because they're never going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you the party line. And that's going to get you into trouble every time. So, to the people who have only one news source, if you hear this, I hope you'll try to find a way to, well, if you hear this, you're getting a second news source. So you already are finding ways to get different opinions. Not that mine's always right. Matter of fact, my wife would tell you it's often wrong. And she's probably got a point. But be careful of all those fanatics out there, folks. And at 23 minutes, I think I'm going to shut this one down. Remember, my haircut's my wife's fault. That's it for now. Bye-bye.